Good evening, my name is John Rizvi. I'm a patent attorney, and I have a confession to make. And that is that anytime I am asked to speak, I try to find the host to introduce me. And I try to get their attention in advance, and I say, tell them I'm practicing for 15 years as a patent attorney. Tell them I'm an adjunct professor at Nova Law School for the past 12 years. Tell them I've been part of this group for 10 years, part of the Solo Small Firm Network. And the reality is, the reason I do this is because I have the fortune or curse, depending on how you look at it, of looking like I've just graduated from law school. My wife's here tonight. My wife and I have 5 kids, and thank you. She's in the corner. Now, a lot of you don't know this, and that's because in this day and age, having 5 kids kind of sets you apart as being a freak. So I've tried to keep that down, kind of hidden. The problem is, and Bruce Putman has left tonight, but when I didn't know him that well, he would ask, so John, how's the baby? And so I said, well, fine. A few years after that, I've been part of this group for 10 years, John, how's the baby? Fine. And then finally my conscience got to me because I had a mediation that Bruce Putman was part of, and I took Bruce aside. I said, Bruce, you've been asking me how the baby is. I have a confession to make. I have 5. Anyway, I'm a patent attorney, and that means, as most patent attorneys, I was an engineer before I was a lawyer. In fact, I was the kid that would take a screwdriver to a Rubik's Cube, break it apart, to figure out how it worked. And my dream and ambition as a young child was to figure out a way to make a spherical Rubik's Cube. And you can tell the nerds early. Anyway, I was devastated when, of course, it came out. It wasn't invented by me, but there is a spherical Rubik's Cube now. And talk about a downer, the day that came out, that was supposed to be my invention. But what I wanted to talk about today, and one of the things I contemplated, I said, let me speak about some of the fascinating inventions that I have protected for my clients. Some of them have become multi-million-dollar companies. A lot of my clients have retired off of their patents, but I won't talk about that. And the reason is, I have learned many years ago that engineers find things interesting and fascinating that nobody else does. What I will talk about is a difficult decision I had to make over a dozen years ago to leave my firm in New York and start out on my own. Now, in order to understand this, you need to know a little bit about this firm. I used to work for Fish and Neve, which there's a couple IP attorneys in the audience today. Fish and Neve is the oldest and best known intellectual property firm in the United States. They patented the Wright brothers airplane, they patented Thomas Edison's light bulb, Henry Ford's automotive innovations, Alexander Graham Bell's telephone. This is probably the firm with the strongest pedigree in intellectual property that exists. The other thing about Fish and Neve is they could be cited as an example of golden handcuffs. The firm starts first-year associates at $160,000 a year. Their bonuses are equally staggering. In fact, they contribute to a 401k, and Miles will appreciate the benefit of that, I think, more than anyone else. The year I left Fish and Neve, my bonus was greater than my entire salary as an engineer ever was. Now, that being said, the firm provides health insurance, medical insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, and this is where I'll just, I will tell you, the reason they provide all of this insurance, in my view, is they can get a brand new, healthy, fresh graduate in about 3 months. They're going to need medical insurance. They are going to need dental insurance, because in order to entice you to work, you work through lunch, they'll pay for lunch. You work through dinner, they'll pay for dinner. You come in over the weekend, they'll send a car service to your house, bring you into work, send you home at the end, and feed you whatever you want. I probably gained about 30 pounds in the first 3 months there. But I did last there 5 years, so eventually I put a stop to that. I wanted to get out. There's nothing I wanted more than to leave Fish and Eve in New York. Now, when you have worked for the top patent firm in the world, you don't want to leave for some second-class up-and-comer. And of course, I guess the firm has brainwashed me well in that regard. So I thought, if I'm going to leave, I'm going to go out on my own. Now, of course, to leave a firm like that and go out on your own is tough. It's, so how do I convince, and one of the things that I looked at, I spoke to Elizabeth Stack, who's the director of the University of Miami Career Planning Office. And I said, Liz, I can't get the courage to start out on my own. I went to the University of Miami. I want to come back to South Florida. Can you find me a law firm that can kind of soften my landing here in South Florida, and then as I get the courage to go out on my own, I'll do it then. And Liz said, John, you need to speak to Spencer Ehrenfeld. He's a well-known personal injury attorney in South Florida. He started his own firm. I invited him tonight, but I think Miami's gotten a lot more rain than we have in Broward. He wasn't able to come. And Spencer is, and I see a lot of first-year law students here, when everybody else is telling young lawyers and law students that you don't know your head from your rear end, Spencer is a guy that says, you know what, trust your instincts, trust your gut, and go for it. And I wish you were here today. And I certainly appreciate all that Spencer has done for me in encouraging me. So I'm convinced. I want to go out, I want to start my own firm. Those of you, you might think, okay, that's half the battle. If you're married, you have the second half ahead of you. That's to convince your wife that this actually makes sense. If you're married 10 years or more, like myself, the reality is that's not half the battle. Convincing yourself, especially if you're a guy, is about 20% of the battle. The rest of it is an uphill battle that I still have to fight. So, lawyers are supposed to be great at persuading. So here I am, honey, only one of us have a job between us. We have a 2-year-old, another baby on the way. We're not going to have any health insurance. The dental insurance is gone. The vision insurance, when is going to go? And my vision was, because of working at Fish and Eve for 5 years here in front of a computer at 12 hours a day, the vision was going fast as well. We have no savings. I have no clients. And as all of you know, there's a couple of New Yorkers here. The View, my wife's of course, from the New York area. What the New Yorkers' view of Florida. And they certainly don't think that that's where all the inventors live. So I turned to my wife and I said, okay, this is something that I want to do. I'm convinced. And she said yes. She said yes. And that is something that I will forever be eternally grateful to her for. That's the second most important yes she has given me in my entire life. The first one, of course, is when she agreed to marry me.
Then you had 5 more.
Now, Saba, of course you don't know about this because then you would never come. Please stand up. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for believing in me at a time when I could scarcely muster up the courage to believe in myself. Thank you so much. I am happier today than I have ever been at the large firm in New York. I am healthier today than I have ever been at the large firm in New York. And in fact, I'm even wealthier today than I have ever been at the large firm in New York. But of course, I'm preaching to the choir here because I'm talking to solo small firm attorneys. And if there ever is a group that understands the beauty and power of working for yourself, making your own decisions, and the freedom that comes with that, this group is it. I have found in the Solo Small Firm Network over the past 10 years, I have found my home here. And you guys are my friends. I definitely am very grateful to Loring for putting this group together. It's a group that I share a lot of ideas with. Thank you.